Hold on to your hats because in 2 weeks, things are about to change forever for the United States. It's about to get wild. And I'm not even talking about the U.S. election, which is 30 days away. 3 huge news stories we need to get to today because you see, while the rest of the world is watching World War III unfold in the Middle East right now, an economic bombshell just went off in China. And the Biden administration is not even talking about it because they want you to think everything is fine 30 days before the election. You're not dealing with higher prices. You're not dealing with inflation. You didn't just lose your job. And also, the Fed just lied right to our faces, telling us that the U.S. economy is strong. We're going to show you that as well. And a separate massive story is unfolding in Russia right now, where President Putin is preparing to dump the U.S. dollar in earnest. So let's start right there. Let's start with that. In just 2 weeks, Putin, China, and the BRICS nations are crafting the perfect storm to challenge and potentially dethrone the mighty U.S. dollar once and for all. Yes, you heard me right. It's not just talk. This is happening, and they're not bluffing about it. They've been warning us for months that October is the month. That's when shit is going to hit the fan. That's when it all goes down. So here's the scoop. On October 22nd, Russia rolls out the red carpet for all these BRICS nations to come into Russia. And this isn't just a quaint little meeting of small economies. No, this is the power play. I mean, think of it like this. After World War II, right, the U.S. held the Bretton Woods Conference, where it was decided then that the U.S. dollar would become the reserve currency of the world. Well, this is their Bretton Woods Conference. And it's the clearest signal as Putin can possibly send that the days of the United States financial dominance might be numbered. With BRICS now covering a whopping 46% of the world's population, 36% of the global GDP, this shift isn't just about economics, it's a seismic geopolitical move. And this is all happening while no one is even running the White House right now. I mean, who's in charge? And President Trump has been warning about the de-dollarization for months now.
Our country's going to hell, and we're not going to be the big bar. We have power, but it's waning. In fact, it's waning in terms of our currency. And I'm not just talking about the value of our currency. I'm talking about our currency being used throughout the world.
You want it to remain, you want the dollar to remain the world's reserve currency.
Well, I think it's bigger than losing any war.
But it's what's happening behind the scenes that's even juicier. Russia isn't just hosting a summit. They're setting strict new rules for members, rules that essentially tell Western sanctions to basically take a hike. These nations are stepping up, ready to pivot away from the sanctions-heavy handshakes of the United States. Algeria, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Iran, you've got the UAE, Saudi Arabia ready to join. They're all taking tickets to join the BRICS train. And folks, the train is barreling down the tracks straight towards de-dollarization. This is how bad it's going to get.
So the liquid assets go first. Now, about 40% of American stocks are owned by foreigners and 1/3 of corporate bonds. If foreigners start fleeing, both plunge. This could cut your 401k almost in half. It could drive up borrowing costs for companies to impossible levels. That would lead to mass bankruptcies on top of the wave of bankruptcies the Fed is already engineering to try and stop the inflation it started.
Yeah, it's going to be terrible. Now shift your gaze to China, where the real financial wizardry is brewing right now. This week, Beijing dropped a massive economic stimulus. More than a shot in the arm, it's a total transformation of their economy. China's stock market exploded, up 25%, a rally like we haven't seen in ages. The People's Republic of China is playing the long game here, incentivizing international trade in the yuan, stepping away from the US dollar. And these BRICS countries are taking the bait. They see the future. And to them, the future is China, not the United States. And here's where the plot thickens. There's more than just chatter about a new BRICS-backed, possibly gold-linked currency being unveiled in Russia in 2 weeks. This will be the counterweight to the US dollar. We've been warning about it for months here on this show. Think about it. This isn't just a symbolic shift from the greenback. It's a full-court press on the financial fields that America once indisputably controlled all around the world. So what happens if Russia and China land this punch to our stomachs? What happens? When that happens, we don't just slow down, we nosedive. And it's not just a blue or red state issue here. It's a red alert for everyone. Dollar value dips and boom, prices for imports and essentials like food, gas, pharmaceuticals soar. The stakes higher and higher. Consumer prices will spike. And those items on the shelves, many of them from China, suddenly cost you an arm and a leg to buy them.
So Americans have no choice. Unless you have gold or Bitcoin, you go down with that ship. Now, a falling dollar drives up the price of everything that comes into America, but it also drives up the price of anything traded on world markets. So that's the raw materials, the imported components that drive American factories and sustain American consumers. First to jump would be gasoline. heating fuel, food prices. All of these are world markets. They're very liquid. Along with prescription drugs, since China has a creeping stranglehold thanks to our idiotic overregulation. Indeed, this is more or less true for every consumer product that China dominates. We shot ourselves in the foot. Now it's coming back to bite us.
Right? And since liberal policies have sent manufacturing overseas, we don't have the capacity here at home to just turn on the factories and start producing, TVs and computers and silicon chips and everything, you name it. This is a massive earth-shattering change, you guys. U.S. stock markets, heavily held by foreign investors, are perched on the brink right now. Imagine the panic when foreigners suddenly dump these assets. Your 401k, poised for a major downfall. Your corporate bonds and equities, their value could be slashed like a Black Friday sale gone wrong. This is not fear-mongering. This is the underbelly of the economic vulnerability that we are facing in the United States right now. Pay attention. De-dollarization is happening at a faster pace than anyone thought possible. And by the way, to top it off, the Federal Reserve isn't telling you the whole truth. Jerome Powell and his happy crew keep coming out, patting themselves on the back, telling you everything is fine. They're lying. Powell just lied right to our faces this week. Watch.
I do have some brief comments on the economy and monetary policy, and then I look forward to our discussion. Our economy is strong overall and has made significant progress over the past 2 years toward achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices. Labor market conditions are solid, having cooled from their previously overheated state. Inflation has eased, and my FOMC colleagues and I have greater confidence that it is on a sustainable path back to 2%.
That's laughable. They'll throw out numbers like 140,000 new jobs, an unemployment rate stuck at 4.2%. It all sounds great, right? But here's what they won't tell you. Most of these new jobs are part-time gigs, not the full-time work that people need to actually make a living. Think about it. How can the economy be healthy when good full-time jobs are being swapped out for part-time low-wage jobs? You can't support a family on 20 hours a week flipping a burger. Yet the Fed looks at that and says, see, employment is strong. Americans have 2 jobs instead of 1. It's unbelievable. But it gets worse. They're not even talking about how illegal immigrants are flooding into these industries, undercutting wages, taking jobs that would have gone to hardworking Americans. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. This is your job. This is your paycheck. This is your livelihood at stake right now. I mean, look, the Fed can manipulate the data all they want, but it doesn't change the reality that we're living in right now. When the numbers are cooked, it paints a false picture. Basically, the Biden-Harris government is telling you that you're fine, even though you know you're not. People are struggling. The average American is just fighting right now just to get by, while the Fed is acting like nothing is wrong at all. Don't let them fool you with their fancy stats. The truth is they're lying to you, using garbage data to make it look like the economy is stable when it's anything but right now. But guys, in 2 weeks at the BRICS conference, you're going to see a global shift. Hopefully you're preparing your money right now out of the US dollar and into stable assets like real estate, gold, and silver to protect your family.